Arin trudged through the snow, her boots crunching in the silence. The village of Brindamark was still shrouded in darkness as she made her way to the edge of town, where a small cottage stood alone. She had grown accustomed to sneaking out under cover of night, when no one was watching. It wasn't safe during the day, too many eyes and ears reporting back to Father Arinder's counselors. The ones who hunted those with her condition. The wind picked up as Arin approached the cottage door, which hung crookedly on its hinges like a tired sigh from an old soul. She pushed it open and slipped inside, letting the darkness envelop her once more. Inside was warm, almost suffocating, thanks to Elwyn's love of baking. The air clung heavy with scents of sugar and spice as Arin made her way through the narrow kitchen, dodging a half-built wooden spoon on its side. "El," she called softly into the silence. There was no reply. A faint creak came from above, Elwyn's bedroom. The attic windows were usually open during winter to let out the cold air and welcome warmth in through the day. Tonight, they hung closed like unblinking eyes staring back at her. Arin climbed up the ladder to investigate. El stood huddled under a tangle of blankets, but not asleep, watching with those same unwavering windows fixed on hers as she entered. Their silence grew thicker than any fog rolling in off the lake below. "Arin?" Elwyn's voice was laced with something like trepidation. "What brings you here tonight?" The way Arin spoke, usually free and open around her friend, seemed clipped now, a nervous hesitation before answering truths she wished weren't so easily overheard by anyone else in this small cottage. "Father Arinder's patrols," Arin replied, barely above a whisper. "They've been getting closer to the village since winter started setting in." Elwyn shifted, blankets rustling softly like leaves on an autumn breeze. "I'm glad you came here tonight," El said quietly as she reached out with her hand and gently nudged one corner of Arin's worn coat toward its shoulder. "I had something I wanted to talk about when the night got darker." The darkness around them seemed more oppressive, almost palpable. Arin raised an eyebrow, curiosity sparking within her at Elwyn's hesitant tone and words laced with worry. She took another step closer into the dim attic space, as if needing to bridge some unseen gap between them. "What is it?" she asked softly now that they were face to face beneath those same unforgiving windows. El looked down, hands twisting in a way Arin knew signaled nervousness whenever Elwyn struggled with sharing thoughts, especially about things beyond their simple lives as village dwellers. Her voice dropped further until barely above breath. "It's not just the patrols anymore, they're here for something more." Arin felt her heart stutter on its beat within chest, that flutter in her throat almost suffocating under pressure from unspoken questions racing ahead of words. "What have you found out? How do we know it's not a trap?" El nudged the blanket aside and hopped down to sit cross-legged next to Arin. Her voice still carried an undertone, but now there was something else woven within, desperation. "There are things happening in Brindamark that can't be explained by normal means. Equipment breaking without cause or going missing only for days later when the villagers finally report seeing shadows lurking near where they were last seen." Arin leaned into Elwyn's words, an understanding connection between them forming like a fragile thread stretched thin across icy waters. "I think," El said with her voice trembling ever so slightly now, "I've been noticing some changes in you too. Little things that make me wonder." A faint shiver ran down Arin's spine as she met the intensity of their conversation head-on, an unseen connection building like a spark between two flintstones waiting for just one more touch to set them ablaze. "The counselors have been asking questions about us," Elwyn went on, "looking into who we associate with and our daily routines. I'm starting to suspect it's not because they care but rather what your presence here might mean." Her words trailed off mid-sentence, cut short by a faint whisper outside their cottage window. "Shh," the voice whispered, barely audible over the wind howling around them like an otherworldly beast in pursuit. "Listen." As one, Arin and Elwyn strained to pick up on anything beyond that soft call. But there was only silence, or perhaps something far more sinister lurking just out of earshot. The sound came again, a faint scratching at the windowpane this time. It seemed almost imperceptible until it wasn't anymore. The world around them shrunk down into an unending, suffocating moment where any noise felt amplified like thunder on an empty plain. Elwyn's grip tightened as she leaned closer to Arin now, their hands instinctively clasped together beneath the blanket. It was then that Arin noticed a shadowy figure standing at their window, just beyond reach of Elv's grasping hand, peering in with eyes glowing like lanterns on a midnight sky. And it saw them, truly looked upon both without hiding behind a smile or any friendly mask now. The silence grew heavier still as all three were suspended within that instant where time held its breath and became one long-held heartbeat ready to burst free into action at the slightest spark of movement from either side. The shadowy figure did not move, nor did it speak. Its presence seemed a mere whisper on the wind, an unspoken threat hanging like a specter over them all as they remained frozen within that fragile moment where anything could change the course of their lives forever, including becoming pawns in some game beyond understanding. Arin felt her grip around Elwyn's hand tighten reflexively. A part of her wanted to scream at this dark presence, demanding it leave or do its worst and be done with them once for all. Another whispered that perhaps they should remain still, hoping against hope the figure might turn away from their tiny sanctuary. Elv's voice was barely audible over the pounding in Arin's ears as she asked, "Do you think?" Her words trailed off into a silent question, one not needing an answer since it hung suspended like ice forming on frozen lakes during winter. Their hands were clasped tightly now, fingers intertwined within that unspoken bond between them. If only they could hold on to this moment. A faint scratching echoed through the silence once more as if in response to their still breathing and locked gazes with an unseen entity outside, but it was no longer at the window. Instead a low screech tore into Arin's ears from beneath her very feet. The floorboards creaked, groaned, and then gave way. The darkness under them erupted as if summoned by their fear, or perhaps something far more sinister. Arin's vision blurred for an instant before she was yanked down with Elwyn still clasped in a desperate grip toward the gaping hole that now gaped within the floorboard's broken remnants, into which waited only darkness so profound it threatened to consume all light from their world, including any hope of escape or redemption. Their screams were lost in an instant beneath falling wood and debris as Arin's world went black. When the dust settled, Arin opened her eyes to find Elwyn lying limp beside her on some hidden landing they'd stumbled into. The air reeked of damp earth and mold, an odor so pungent it made their stomachs turn as if rebelling against this new environment. She struggled free from beneath the splintered wood, scrambling towards where Elwyn lay motionless in a broken heap amidst shadows that seemed to writhe around them like living things. As she reached out to shake her friend awake, praying they weren't injured beyond repair. "Elwie?" Arin whispered softly into the stillness. No response. A jolt of fear ran down Arin's spine, making her heart seize within its chest as panic clawed at reason in a desperate bid for reassurance. "Wake up!" She tried to coax louder now, though every word trembled with unshed tears and foreboding dread seeping into the hollows beneath. It was then that Elwyn stirred. Her eyes snapped open, unfocused but gradually focusing on Arin's frantic expression as if seeing through a veil of fog slowly lifting from their shared vision. Their hands grasped once more in an automatic gesture born out of years spent relying upon each other for comfort and solace. "I'm here," Elle said quietly, her voice like rain on parched earth after drought, soothing. Arin clutched tighter as the reality they faced seemed to close in around them. They couldn't stay hidden down here forever. Eventually someone would find this makeshift trap or simply stumble upon their concealed lair. "We need a plan," Arin whispered back, trying not to think about what other terrors might lie beyond these dusty walls, especially with that figure watching from the window still unaccounted for. Elwyn nodded silently as if she too had been thinking along similar lines. It was then they both noticed it.